Hello, Manny. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Yarrow. It's going to be fun ride.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this topic. For those who don't know, you're really good at reading books. That's the simplest way to put it, or getting through a lot of books really quickly. You've turned this into like an art form, a business, but obviously it started with, I guess, a desire for books and reading books. So, what is it? When you're out as a kid, did you love books? What led to this?
No, it wasn't really like that. I wasn't the biggest reader when I was a kid. I wasn't even that much of a reader even when I was in college, maybe even grad school. I wasn't until I got exposed to certain books, certain ideas, and fell in love with genres, with the topics. Right. So one of the fields that really attracted my attention was personal development. I would start reading, I would read something, I would apply it, I would see my life improve. I was like, man, this is amazing. And then I would keep digging more. So
Do you have an
for me,
example from back then, like
yeah,
the
I
first
think
one?
I think one of the earliest, there's so many books, but one of the earliest was a fiction book, The Fountainhead by
Oh,
Ayn Rand.
and Rand. Yeah.
That really influenced my thinking on what's possible. And then after that, I got exposed to a lot of different books in personal development field, like As a Man Thinketh, Think and Grow Rich. Um, and then over the years, one of the books that really influenced a lot of my life's decisions was the 4 Hour Work Week, which probably I got exposed in 2007, 2008. Around that time, I was reading books, but I wasn't as aggressively reading books. But then, like with that book, saw like every book, like a book like that had such a crucial impact on my life. I was like, man, there must be a lot of great books like this. Like if this one book has such a paradigm shift, imagine what's out there. So then I would
Well,
just go and buy books all the time because I was just getting more and more curious about business, about career, about growth, about personal development.
okay. I'm assuming back then you didn't have a business. You had your own job.
Yeah, back 2007, 2008, I was, or 2009, around the time when I got exposed to uh, 4 Hour Work Week. I was working as a computer engineer in a Fortune 500 company, and that was my life.
It doesn't sound like you enjoyed that life, judging by the tone of voice there.
Well, it was, it was fun for a while, and then at some point, the fun just becomes no more fun when you just do the same thing over and over again. And yeah, it wasn't as fun compared to where I started. At some point, it starts to get, but what stayed constant throughout that period for me was I kept on buying new books, reading more books, and reading more and more and more books. And the more I read, the more I was like, wow, this is a new idea. I would read something on productivity. I would go apply it. I would see the changes in my life. I would read Effective Executive by Peter Drucker. I would go apply the principles in my business. I would apply the principles of 4 Hour Work Week in my job, and I would start to see the results. And I was like, man, this is pretty damn cool. So for me, the love of reading was a result of the topic. I'm not going to read anything. I'm very specific with the things I like to read, and I don't really, there are things that I'm never going to read. I'm not going to just pick up a random book on philosophy or even fiction. I just don't feel like I have the time for fiction. There are certain books I'll read, but most of them not. So uh, I'm more like seeking knowledge than I is just about reading, if
Mhm.
that makes
So
sense.
it's not as much about entertainment as it is about some kind of change in behavior or goal attainment or something like that.
Yeah, learning and growth have been like some fundamental. I feel like it's been a fundamental part of my life, or it's a fundamental value to me. So as long as there's learning and growth in my life through these instruments, I pursue them, and reading is that instrument.
Mm. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that sounds like it was maybe not a hobby, but it was something that you were doing with focus, but then things really changed when you decided, like, I know you have a website called 2000books.com. which I believe it was set when you first got that domain name as an aspirational goal to read 2,000 books. So did something happen? You were reading, gaining a lot, and did you decide to make like a public declaration of this for some reason? Like what happened?
No, it wasn't really a public declaration of any kind per se. It was more of I left my engineering career back in 2015 to start a book summary business. Initially, it was called absorb.fm, which was how to absorb the best ideas from books. I still have that domain, but I don't know why I left that domain to pick 2000 books, because the philosophy in my mind was that if you want to live a great life, if you want to do great things in this world, you need to constantly feed your mind with good ideas. And if you do that for 40 years of your productive life, from 25 to 65, then you will end up reading. And if you read a book a week for 40 years of productive life, that's 2000 books. So that was the idea. It wasn't an aspirational goal for me per se to read 2000 books. It was more of, this is the path to living a great life, which is if you absorb the knowledge of a book a week for your productive life, you're going to live a great life. You're going to find yourself growing and developing yourself and living a great life.
Okay. Now, with that business, what was the goal for your audience? What was what problem did you solve for other people?
Okay, so the business, I mean, 2000 books as it is today, I read and my team reads now. So we compress the knowledge from the world's best business and personal development books into 15-minute videos and audio summaries. So we take the best ideas from these books and we create summaries so that people can quickly get into a book, learn the best ideas from the book, and apply those in their lives. And if they really like the book, maybe they should go buy it. So we're we're sharing the best ideas from these books that we think are the best ideas, that we enjoy the most, that stand out the most to us, and yeah, hoping that you will apply them to your life and improve your life as a result.
Okay, so there's definitely a difference between a book summary and reading a whole book. So maybe you can take us back in time to the point where you said, I'm going to make this something I teach and something I do for other people. You were reading a lot of books for your own growth. You start this business to do book summaries. Can you take us through, like, were you doing these summaries for yourself initially? Like, is that part of your reading process? And was it just a way to speed up? And what were you trying to do? Was there an end goal with all of this, or was it just because you always wanted to be learning something new?
When I never had a business in mind for book summary when I was actually in my job. I knew I was gonna start my own business, and I was, dabbling with different ideas all the time. But book summary business was on my list of things to do. It was just books were the things I love to read, or books were my pastime to learn and grow and do all these things. But being a computer engineer, I would think more of tech ideas and all those things. But what I did was I was reading some books on early stage entrepreneurship, lean startup, good to great. Good to great is not just early stage; it's for any business owner per se. But lean startup, good to great, millionaire fast lane. Like, I was reading these books, I really liked them. I highlighted a whole bunch of them, and then I said, well, I like the way I learn best is through a visual representation of stuff. So I literally took the book and created a mind map of the book, as in like a visual representation breakdown of the ideas. And I created a mind map, and then I decided to explain the mind map in a video format and just put it online. It was not really with any intention of creating a business out of it. I just wanted to share whatever that mind map with YouTube. So I put it up on YouTube because just a mind map by itself wouldn't make any sense. So I kind of I talked people through the whole mind map of these books. So the Good to Great, Millionaire Fast Lane, and Lean Startup. And
Can you tell me what's
just,
the benefit of a mind map format? And
yes,
what is it?
a mind map is a visual breakdown of a book. So, most of us, when we read a book, it's a very linear chapter to chapter to chapter to chapter. And if you're reading on a Kindle, then everything mishmash. Like you can't even place the idea visually in your mind. It's just streams of text, one page after another. You don't really know which page, where, what, anything at all. And if you're listening to audiobook, even more so, you're just like taking in information, but you have no visual map of the book. So to me, a mind map is a map of the book. So if you think of a forest, um, if you're trying to navigate a forest, right? I tell you, hey, Yarrow, here's the entry to the forest. And as you walk into the forest, there will be a path. And as you walk the path, hopefully you will end up at the end of the path and you will figure out, you will find your way through the forest. Yes, that's one way to do it. But a mind map, like what happens when you do that, when you're reading a book like that, when you're just entering the forest and you're just walking through the forest, you find yourself lost in the trees, right? You're surrounded by information, you're lost in the trees. A mind map, on the other hand, gives you a 30,000, not 30,000, but maybe 1,000-foot overview of that jungle that you just walked into. So you can see from high above what you're getting yourself into. You're like, oh, this is the map of the whole jungle, and these are the different areas of the jungle, and this is what's going to happen here, this is what's going to happen here, this is what's going to happen here, this is what's happening here. So think of it like I'm giving you the map of the book, and I'm describing to you what are the key elements of those areas in the book. I'm telling you, okay, this is the visual, like visually breaking down the book and
What was the
explaining.
first one you did? Just as an example, you said you did Good to Great, was it?
Good
Or
to great. I think that was good to great or lean startup, one of those, or
okay,
maybe
so
in a fast lane. I don't know which three.
well, pick one.
Yeah.
I know you can't. Obviously, we're doing an audio interview, and we can certainly switch to a mind map, and you can show us, and maybe for the article of this, we can include a picture of the mind map. But I know it's hard to visualize with words, obviously, because it's visual. But for those who've never even seen a mind map, and let's take Good to Great being maybe the most well-known book. I'm trying to think like there's concepts in Good to Great. So how did you lay things out in that rather than me reading it from start to finish? And how does that make it better as a format?
Yeah, I mean, I still like, as I think about the book, Good to Great, I visually remember, like I could visually see the three key principles of the book. It's the discipline. It's discipline of people, discipline of thought, and discipline of action. And those are like the three components, three key chunks of the mind map. And each of these chunks is now subdivided into further areas. You see, our brains are like trees, right? Our brains think like trees. They don't think linearly. They think in clusters. They think in one idea connected to the next, to the next, to the next, and they go in different directions. They go spread out from one idea all the way to 10 different ideas. But the problem is when ideas spread out like that, it's very difficult to contain them and to be able to remember them or to be able to even conceptualize them. So the key to memorization in some ways is clustering information. Hierarchy and clustering. So if you had 10 different ideas, I can ask you to remember 10 ideas. It's very difficult to do that. But if I subgrouped those 10 ideas into a group of three, a group of three, and a group of four, now you can remember those three subgroups. It's much easier to conceptualize the whole process because now you have created a hierarchy and you have created chunks. And that's how a human being can remember information way, way, way better than if you just got a whole linear list of information.
Right.
Linear list is not how a brain thinks. Our brains are wired to think in different directions all the time. And the chunking of that information and the connectedness of that information is what makes visual representation of ideas much more powerful than just linear representation of ideas.
Okay. So you did this like just yourself for the first time for your own purposes, just to like take better notes basically and summarize the
Yeah.
book. And I'm guessing
Yeah.
that was so you could remember it.
I've always gravitated towards mind maps, like
Okay.
for as long as I can remember. Even when I was 7th or 8th grade, I used to literally create mind maps for my learning because I felt like I was very visual. I am a visual learner. I'm an engineer, and I like to kind of diagram things out in some ways.
Okay. So
So that was it.
you did that and you pop one on YouTube. Did something happen as a result of that?
Yeah, I just popped them on YouTube and I forgot about it. But then I come back a year later and that video had like 5,000 views. I'm like, what? How's that? Like, what happened here? And then I go back and I look at it, and there are a bunch of comments. People are commenting saying, hey, how can I buy all of your mind maps? How can I get all of these videos? And I'm like, I don't even have all of these videos. I just like, but it's interesting that people actually care for this stuff, and people are like, what software are you using? What tool are you using?
What
This is
software
very
were you
unique. This
using?
is very, huh? It's
What
called
software?
MindMeister.
MindMeister. Okay.
Hmm. It's a German software, I think.
So how do you record MindMeister? Do you use a recording software as well, or does it?
Yeah, I mean, any screen recording software
What do
like
you
ScreenFlow
use?
or Camtasia. That just as I click through the mind map, I just talk about it and
Okay.
record the screen.
What do you use? ScreenFlow or
Yeah,
Camtasia?
we use ScreenFlow. Yeah,
So you
ScreenFlow.
use ScreenFlow, MindMeister,
Mm-hmm.
and then upload to YouTube, and that's it.
That's our that's our marketing. Like that's where people can find a lot of our free videos, even today.
Okay. So obviously you had this spark for a business idea. Um, did you evolve your learning methodology much then to take this, to something that you actually charge money for?
No, what has happened is it's not that the learning methodology has evolved, it's that I had to codify it.
Okay, what does that mean?
So what that means is that over the years, as I was doing it myself, there's only a limit to how many I can do, how many books I can read, how many books I can summarize at any given time, and I would keep running out of time to do these things. So I brought on a team of writers to be able to read these books and kind of summarize the way I summarize them. But even that takes, for them to be able to do the way I would summarize them, I had to really be able to, I still, to this day, I have to be able to explain exactly how we do what we do. And I did not know that it would take 100 pages of documentation to explain how to do a mind map summary. Not 100 pages, but a lot of documentation to
You
explain.
need a mind map to explain how to do a mind map, huh?
Yeah, more or less that's what we have now. We gave up on the document and we went back to doing mind map, because mind map is the best way to explain a mind map or explain our summaries. And that's our kind of we call it the handbook, but it's more like the hand map of summarization processes that we use.
Okay, so what makes, or what is the codification to make a good mind map of a book? Like simple terms, if I wanted to replicate what you do to consume books quicker using mind maps, what would I do?
Okay, so there are multiple questions here. One is to consume books quicker, and one is to mind map, right? So let me kind of separate them out. To consume books quicker is a completely different set of rules and practices that you have to follow. Mind mapping is more for how to absorb books in a better, more friendly, more visual manner, right?
Does it not make
Not
you
all.
quicker as well, or not?
It's only quicker after I have done it, right?
For other people.
For other people.
Right.
But
You
for
make
me, it's
us
still
quicker.
going to, yeah, I'm making your life easy, but our life is difficult. Like we go through 7 iterations, 8 iterations to actually create the final mind map version that we create today. That's not, I mean, that wasn't usually my process. I would go with 2 or 3, but with the team, I realized that we need to go through all those iterations to do that.
Okay.
But to answer your question, I mean, the mind mapping process is there to make it visual and to make it easy for anyone who sees the mind map to be able to learn those ideas, right? So that's one side of the equation. But the other side, I think that's the part of the discussion that maybe we want to have more of, is how do we read faster, or how do we learn faster from books? How do we uh, read, read as quickly as a book a day or 7 books a week or whatever it is? Well, that is a completely separate game compared to the mind mapping side of things.
How many books do you like? What's your claim to fame now, Manny?
Yeah. Well, used to be like I was reading/listening 7 books a week,
Wow.
and not anymore because my team does part of that. I also, I probably do 3 books a week right now, 2 to 3 books a week, but my team does the rest.
That's still a
But
lot.
yeah. But earlier it was 7 books a week, and there are a lot of different ways to go about speeding up this process of reading.
How do I do a book in a day?
How?
How would you do
Yeah,
one book in
the
one
key
day?
is to not do a book in a day. The key is to have multiple books going on at the same time, because you're going to get bored. So that's the first thing. Like, a lot of people want to like read through a whole book in one day, and I would not recommend you do that, because then at some point it becomes a drag. So for me, I don't have one book going on at any given time. I have multiple, 4, 5, 6 books going on at any given time. So anytime I'm feeling bored, or I'm like kind of checking out of my mental like work thing I'm focusing on, I can just pick up whatever topic I feel drawn to read about that at that moment. So I'm not obligated to read that book. That's really important. Like, you got to be excited about the damn thing. If you can get excited about a new book every day and finish it from top to bottom, all power. I don't think that works for most people, because you will get bored very quickly after reading 20, 30,
Okay.
40, 50, 60
So
pages.
step one, do not try and do one book a day. Have multiple books going at once.
Yeah, don't try to do one book a day. Instead, try to do 7 books a week or 30 books a month. That's much easier,
Interesting.
because now
Okay.
you have so many different ideas and so many different angles that you never feel bored.
Okay.
You never feel like just tired
Okay.
of the book. So
Step
that's really
two.
important. Step two is to not use the same modality. So when people think of reading a book, they're thinking of a physical book, right? Or a Kindle book. They're like, oh, I'm just reading books on Kindle all the time, and I got these 30 books on Kindle. No, mix up the modality. I have multiple books that are going on like paper or hardcover, multiple books that are going on Kindle, and multiple books that are going on Audible. So depending on where I'm at, what kind of situation it is, I'll pick up any of them. So if I'm out walking, I might listen to something on Audible. If I'm running, I'll listen to Audible, or if I'm hiking. But if I'm sitting at a coffee shop and I just want to open up a paperback, it'll be in my bag and I can read that. And there are times when I'm just browsing my phone and I know it's not time to browse the phone, but instead it's time to read. There's so much time that we consume on our phones that if we just took that time and put that into just opening up our Kindle app on the phone and just reading that, that itself gets you so much closure, like so much closer to your reading goals. Like, people spend 2, 3, 4 hours a day on their phones, and just that time, if it's used on reading, it will
Okay.
get you very close to your
So
goals.
I feel like there's almost two steps there. So step one, more than one book a day, even aim to have 30 going. Two, different modalities. So make use of
All
audio,
the modalities. Yeah.
Kindle on your phone, Kindle on your Kindle, hard book, soft copy, all of that. But also, maybe step three is make the conscious choice to, instead of spend 2 hours on social media, to actually use that time for reading.
Yeah. Delete your social media apps and put Kindle on your main browsing, like in your iPhone. Instead of having Kindle somewhere on the third screen, put it on your home screen on
Uh-huh.
the in one of the four bottom like main icons, and automatically you will be drawn to going there.
Yep.
That's
Simple hack.
that's like simple hack, but it actually works, because now anytime you want to distract yourself, you just click that and you open that. The next thing is to have clear goals. So anytime you sit down to read something, just setting yourself a goal that, okay, I'll finish this chapter, or I'll read for like, I'm at 45%, I'll take it to 50% in this setting before I move on. That really allows you to be much more conscious of your reading and become much more, as soon as you set targets, your brain's going to help you move to that target quicker, compared to you just browsing, reading for the sake of reading. So having those little targets even throughout the day, and having reading targets for the week, reading targets for a month, is really important. If we just randomly approaches, it's very difficult. So I have a spreadsheet, literally my like our operations manager, she puts together the spreadsheet of everything that we're reading at any given time. And she basically is like, this is your list of books to read. And any given week, I can just go into Asana and be like, okay, these are my books, and just go in, and I'm constantly aware of the timelines and the deadlines that we're
Okay.
working towards. So having that goal is
So
really
it's like
crucial. Without
micro goals almost. So step four is just to have
macro and micro. So
okay.
macro is like, you have goals for the week, you have goals for the month, but you also have goals for your reading session or for that day,
So it might be
right?
like read 30 books this month, but
Mm-hmm.
today read 5 pages of the book I pick up.
Read 5 pages of the book right now. That's probably not going to be enough to read that much. But yeah, I mean, any session you say, okay, at least I'm going to get through 5% of this book or something like
Okay.
that. Or you're going to set yourself the goal that today I have to, at this time I will read, or these are my breaks during the day when I will read. So you have to almost take it on as a hobby rather than as a work, because as soon as it starts to become a chore, then your brain starts to tune out. But as
Hmm.
soon as you think of it as like a little break in your day when you can just chill out, sit in the garden and enjoy this book, then you start to take it as a more of a fun goal rather than a chore of a goal.
Okay. So how does, well, it must be more steps, because I feel like if I did that, I'm still not going to get through 30 books
You
necessarily.
won't. So now the key is to read faster or listen faster. Now, there's very interesting. A few days ago, actually, we were in the process of summarizing this book called Hyper Focus by this guy called Chris Bailey. Chris Bailey was named the most productive, or he was named by Fortune magazine or Time magazine or one of these, or Inc. magazine, as one of the most productive guys in business 2 years ago or 3 years ago, because he had read 30 greatest books on productivity, and he had written like a blog on that. And I'm like, well, that's not cool, because I have literally summarized the 60 greatest books on productivity in our productivity summary back, and nobody's calling me the most productive person. What the hell?
He's got better press than you.
He's got better PR. He's got better marketing than me, man. So, but it's a great book. It's Hyper Focus. That's what it's called. It's an interesting book. And what he talks about is the idea that uh, we need to be able to focus in on things, hyper focus in on things, in order to be able to get them to do our very best. Now, in the book, he talks about this idea called attention space, which also Cal Newport talks about in the book Deep Work. The fact that we have a limited amount of attention space available to us at any given time. Attention space is your overall processing space, your brain's processing space that is available to you at any given time, any given moment. This is the amount of information you can hold in your brain, right? So every time you switch between tasks, you have to switch out your attention space. So let's say right now I'm talking to you, so we're talking about books and reading and all these things. But then let's say I have to start writing my emails for my marketing. Now I have to think about that and not let this conversation come in, right? So we have to cut cleanly as we switch tasks between our focus zones. Now, one of the interesting things that I had noticed early on when I was listening to books was that if I was listening to books at like 1x speed, then at some point it would become, I would tune out. It would get boring. I would tune out. And it just was not like I was losing focus, and I was struggling with listening to books because I would lose focus and I would drift away. Right. And in the book Hyperfocus, Chris Bailey was talking about that. Yeah, when you're listening to books, that's like something you do maybe while you're reading, or when you're walking or you're running. So you're listening to a book. So part of your energy is going to walking, part of your thinking is going to walking, part of your thinking is going to listening to the book. And so that way you have attention space available to focus on the book. But here is the key. Here is what really gets you in a very high performance zone. When you are forced to listen at a much higher speed, then you're forced to bring all of your brain's attention space and your brain's cognitive resources to bear on that thing that's coming at you. So I went from listening at 1x to listening at 3x nowadays. So I listen at 3x. The reason why I listen at 3x is because at 3x I have the most focus.
Interesting.
At 3x, the information is coming so fast that I cannot go anywhere else. When I'm listening at 1x, there is, if I have attention space in unit of 100, if I'm listening a book at 1x speed, maybe I'm only getting 30 units of information per second. So the remaining 70 units of information are not, the remaining 70% of my attention space is not being utilized. And so my brain my brain wanders away. But when I'm giving it 3x, when I'm giving it at 100, like all 100, I'm occupying all of my attention space. Now I'm forced to focus.
Mm. So how do you, as a listener to this, or how do you start? Because you can't just go from 1x to 3x. Most people will just not be able to take that on board. Do you gradually work your way up?
Yeah, you go from 1 to 1.25 to 1.5. I think Audible has 1.5 and 1.75
They
in all
do.
of these
Yeah.
settings, and 2, 2.5, 2. So you gradually work it up. But the key to remember along this whole journey is that the faster you go, the more you will be forced to focus,
Mm.
and hence the more you will actually learn.
So it's almost like
So
you should deliberately set it slightly faster than you can handle just to get you to
yes,
really focus. Okay.
because it forces you to focus. Because if it's slow, you're not focused. It's flow. The book Csikszentmihalyi's book Flow. You know the book, right?
You're brave for
Uh,
saying that, yes.
yeah, it's a great book, and he talks about you have to operate at the zone where it's right at the edge of your challenge, right at the edge of your comfort zone. When you're getting into the challenge zone, that's when you're in the flow. And you can get into the flow zone when you're listening to a book or when you're reading a book only when you're forcing that edge of comfort, only when you're like constantly scrambling to be like, oh, okay, well, what's coming. And as soon as you're operating at 3x, you stop listening for words, you stop listening sentences, you start listening for patterns,
Mm.
you start listening for chunks of information at a time, because that's the best your brain can do actually. And see you start to see the map very quickly compared to when you're listening at 1x, where the map just forms and breaks down and forms and breaks down and forms and breaks down. Here you are constantly keep like because of the speed of information, you're forced to keep up with it all along the way,
Mm-hmm.
and you're forced to keep that map going all along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So
What
really, really,
about
really important.
what about reading? Is that, because it's
Same.
obviously, how do you do
It's the
that?
same idea, but it's a different practice to get yourself to read faster, right? You can't really force yourself the same way as you could with 3x listening. But yeah, reading is again the same. There are different ways to speed read. There are different methodologies to speed read. One of the
What do you
things I
do?
always say is a lot of different things. One key thing is to understand that there are things that you should read fast and there are things you should read slow. And you have to be able to make the distinction as soon as you step into a book. As soon as you step into the book and you start reading the first paragraph, let's say there's a book and it's a book on learned optimism by Martin Seligman. It's a book on optimism. And he's delving into the chapter. And in the chapter, he's talking about why you should be optimistic. He's giving me research study, or he's telling me about why we should be optimistic. I'm already sold on the fact that I should be optimistic. So at that point, I'm already making the decision that this stuff is just an overkill. Like he doesn't need to convince me that I need to learn about optimism. I am sold on optimism. So I'm going to really breeze through this so I can get to the meat of the book where it's actually more substantive to me. So I am picking and choosing what are the ideas that I will go fast on and what are the ideas I'll go slow on.
Mm-hmm. And when you say you go fast, though, do you just move your eyes faster? How do you like? What do you do?
Well, as soon as you read the first paragraph, let's say, as soon as you read the first sentence of the paragraph, you actually see what's coming in the paragraph. You get a framework for what's coming. And then what the simplest hack for me or for anyone is to go look for the next capital letter. As you're reading, you keep looking for the next capital letter, and the first few words of the next sentence will give you a trend of what's following, right? You keep seeing, you can very quickly in those snapshots you start to see, oh, okay, this is the same, this is the use, more of the useless stuff. Okay, this is interesting, this is useful. So you start to read in blocks of information rather than words and sentences.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any tools you use for reading? No
No,
software, nothing like that?
no, no,
Okay.
I haven't really found anything
I,
that's
I,
useful.
I do recall, like
There
Rick
were some
Sheffrin had
gimmicky.
that one that flashed, like it would flash individual words.
They're so gimmicky tools. Like there's always going to be tools like that, but it doesn't really help you. So I'm not the one to say you should read fast and forget everything. That's useless, right?
Okay.
As someone who's summarizing books, you shouldn't just read fast and forget. The key is to comprehend, right? So reading fast is one aspect of it. Comprehending fast is the other aspect of it. And when comprehension comes into play, reading is one of the many elements of comprehension, of fast comprehension.
Okay, tell
Right?
me more. How do I comprehend better?
Yeah. So one of the things, as we were talking about in the speed learning, like in the speed listening part, so we'll play back and forth between
I feel
audio
like we're
and
building a mind map right now here,
right.
Manny.
We're going back and forth between audio and reading. So in audio, remember we were talking about listen at 3x. But the next thing is, so I remember that day I was the day that the book Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins came out. You might remember the book. It's a great book for anyone who's listening out there. Great book on mental toughness. And the day that book came out, a, he released the audible version a day before the Kindle version, or 2 days before the Kindle version. So as soon as the audible version was released, I went for a run. I listened to the book at 3x, and as soon as there was anything that I found was really powerful, I would pause, I would record the notes on my Evernote, and then keep on running.
Like, what would you say?
I would record whatever he was talking about. Like he
Okay.
was talking about some. It was an important idea, an idea that I wanted to remember, and I wanted to take note of that idea. So I would literally just record in my Evernote. I'd be like, okay, this is what Goggins said about this, this, and this, and this.
Okay.
And I would have all of these audio notes in my Evernote.
Would you sort of say page 26 or hour 30?
It's audible, so there isn't really much
Okay.
over there, right? You can bookmark it, but even then it's not worth it. So I just
Okay.
literally I'll just record it and I'm done.
Okay.
Because then I will have someone just convert that into text, and those are all my notes for the book. The mistake people make is they listen to a book, but they never take notes from the book if they're listening, right? If you're never taking notes from the book, it's very hard. I don't think it's at all possible to realistically be able to comprehend and remember and realistically be able to bring those ideas to use in a future time. Because you'll listen, you'll remember some stuff, you'll remember maybe a couple of stories, but over a period of year or two or three, those things will just get out of your subconscious and
Mm-hmm.
or your conscious, and you will be able to recall a few stories, which is the other part of learning or speed comprehension, which is to make sure you pick out the stories and key in on the stories, because stories are what's most memorable. So
Okay.
if you want to learn the 6 best ideas or the 10 best ideas from the book, just find the 10 best stories that you like and share it with a friend. Tell it to discuss it with your, call up a friend and tell them, hey man, I read this book. That was a really interesting story. What do you think of it? That interaction is really, really, really effective in helping you comprehend and absorb ideas. That discussion
Okay.
is like the highest form of learning.
Can I timestamp this because I feel like we have gone in a few different steps to the left here. So for consuming, it's reading or going through books quicker, and now we're adding comprehending the most important concepts of books as well. So we've had one, don't try and read a book a day, have 30 books going at once so you don't get bored. Two, see, I'm really starting to forget. Wasn't set a goal. That was step 3. Step 2 is multiple modalities, wasn't it? So
Modalities, yeah.
yeah, so Kindle and audio and so on, and get rid of social media and put the icon on the front of your phone. 3 was set goals at the micro and the macro level. So I want to get through 5% of the book this session, plus I need to get through 30 books this month at the macro level. 4. Okay, so now where were we at 4? Because I
So
know
you set goals, and then
yeah.
as you're starting to read, now you can, read or listen faster in order to comprehend books faster, in order to
Right.
go through books faster.
So just
But
be quicker. So use Audible to go faster. Use that technique you described about choosing what's important when you're reading a book, and not paying a lot of attention to it if you don't need to, that section, so you can move forward to what really matters. And you said, like, look at the capital letters, almost like a scanning technique to see what's coming up next. Is it important? If not, move on. That's 4. 5, now you're bringing in comprehension, which is, like you said, you're listening really quickly, you're taking notes so that you're actually transferring the content from the book that you care about into some content that you keep, and then you're also using that to trigger stories that you can tell to friends as well, which is increasing the comprehension. So it's almost like step 6 is use stories.
Well, yeah. So you might have to separate this out. There's the
Okay.
speed reading slash speed listening, speed
Uh-huh.
consumption, and then speed learning. They're two different things. Like when people want to know, they think it's the same stuff, but it's not. Just because someone speed reads doesn't mean that they remember or they comprehend that stuff.
Okay.
So you have to approach these things separately, right? And that's why something like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, I would never try to speed read it. I've tried it. It just doesn't, like, I can't compute,
Me too. It's a
right?
hard book to read, that
No.
one.
So that's a book that I listen at 1x, or that's a book I will read at 1x because it's just that dense and
Uh-huh.
that important and that crucial. But not every book is designed like that. Not every book is written like that. Not every book has that same level of density of information.
Okay. Can we tie a bow on this? Are there any more steps for being quicker at consumption of books?
Consumption or?
Let's stick to consumption. I know we've taken
Okay.
a step into comprehension. Let's finish
Okay.
the consumption part first, so we can actually do 30 books in a month.
The other one is to get an overview of the book, and that's where a summary really helps. Like if you start with knowing the overview of the book, if you already start with knowing the map of the book, it's much easier to walk into it. And I learned this in a very interesting way. One of my writers, she was writing the summary of, she was reading this book called Contenting by Joe Polizzi. You might have come across it.
Contenting?
Content Inc. It's
Content
about
Inc.
building a content marketing business. Content Inc. Incorporated. It's a good book. And she was struggling to understand the book at all, and it was really hard. And then she came across a video of mine where I had kind of given like a 3-minute overview of the book in some other summary somewhere. And as soon as she went through that video, she finally, it all made sense to her. Like the book came together and she was able to move through it so much quicker compared to before that. She was like scrambling. She was just like, what is this? Why are we going in this direction and that direction? It was feeling very disconnected. So getting some sort of an overview of the book even before you step into the book will really help you kind of know. You get, it's like I'm giving you the map for the puzzle, or I'm giving you the map for the forest, and now you have an easy way through that
Right.
hiking trail or through that forest rather than having to make your way yourself.
So it's especially important, I think, for readers who maybe, don't enjoy the listening part as much, because if you have the summary, it's like you've helped them identify the parts that they should pay attention to and the parts that they don't need to.
Yes, and in some ways it's also the map of the book. I mean, depending on the book, like sometimes it's just like these are the 3 big areas in the book, and these are the 3 sub areas in the book, or these sub areas in each of these areas. So this is what to expect in the book. So once you have that map, it's so much easier to walk into the book and be so much more comfortable letting those ideas come at you and be able to navigate it quickly rather than slowly trudging your way through it.
Okay. Now, before we continue, though, having a map like this, it's probably new to a lot of people. And you might be the first person who's ever said, I do these summaries. And sure, it's great. Obviously, I can go to Manny and check out your YouTube and your resources to get a certain set of summaries. But when you first started doing this, did you have any other, like, where can you get maps? Is it available for every book, or is it kind of like
No. So the way you can approach it initially, if there is no map available, you don't have a summary available, is you look through the list of contents, the tables,
table of
the
contents?
table of
Okay.
content. And that's a vague map. It's not always a clear map, but that's a good starting point.
Okay.
But yeah, there is no map, unfortunately, beyond that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're stuck in the paradigm of a book as a linear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9, 10 topics and subtopics and all those things. And I still feel like it's not visual enough for most people to be able to
Yeah, that is
comprehend.
interesting. Like I do a lot of biographies, and that's the format where I feel like linear really works well, because you just want to go from a person's life from start to finish.
Because it's timeline based.
Yeah, but you're right, for books that don't want to tell a to Z story and they just want to drop here's a concept, here's a concept, here's a concept, that would benefit from, yeah, this what you're talking about, basically mapping it out to make it easier to consume and
Yeah, good
visualizing
to
it.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, good to great. I can literally, I don't know how many people will know about that book. You probably know, but many people don't know. But as soon as I can tell you there are three key components in the book. It becomes really easy to now consciously break down the book in your mind. Okay, now we're talking about discipline of action. Now we're talking about discipline of thought. Discipline of thought includes Stockdale paradox. Discipline of thought includes, rinsing the cart at cheese factor, and so on and so forth. So it's really simple to map those out because
You
you
have
have created
stories,
these,
right?
these maps and these visual components of the book.
Yeah, interesting. Any more steps for speeding up consumption of books?
No, not right now.
Okay.
There's
You've
always
given,
like little nuances for reading faster, but I would be boring your audience at some
yeah.
point because it gets too nuanced.
Honestly, you've given an amazing overview already, Manny. There's a lot of steps there, and we'll get them for people, written out for them. Let's just take a step back into comprehension then. So you start talking more about comprehension regarding stories and taking notes. What else is there?
So stories, the key is to make sure you share the story
Interesting.
or the key is to make it a habit to share what you're learning, whether you find the stories, the metaphors, the data, the test data. Concepts are really hard to grab onto. Our minds cannot remember concepts, but our minds remember stories. Our brains are really good at remembering stories, remembering data points, not data points in the way like number related data points, but more like research studies or metaphorical ideas, like anything that we can connect in a more holistic way compared to
Mm-hmm.
just a concept. A concept is very hard to understand and very dry to remember.
Mm.
So do whatever you can to remember the story and remember the test data or the experimental data or the metaphor or whatever, and share it with someone.
Mm.
Sharing is really, really, really good. There's this thing called the Ed Dale cone of learning, in which he talks about the different levels of learning. Level one, or the lowest level of learning, is literally reading and not really doing much after that. But the highest level of reading is taking action, or highest level of learning is taking action. The second highest level of learning is discussion, active discussion on the topic. Lowest level is reading, but there's reading, there's like, you know, audio visual understanding, then there's discussion, and then there's taking action, if you want to think of like four crude things. So you literally can double your comprehension if it goes from just reading to having a visual representation, and you go triple your comprehension if you actually start to now discuss those ideas or share those ideas. And action takes it to another level altogether.
Okay, so let's just take. Can you give us an illustration of those 4 steps from a book, maybe even that you applied to your own life at some point?
Yeah, I mean, again, think of Good to Great. The story, the Stockdale paradox, it's such a great story. You may or may not have heard of that story. I believe everyone knows in the business world today what Stockdale paradox is. And that is a story that I have now probably told like 50 different people, and I've summarized it so many times. But just sharing that story keeps that book in perspective for me at all times. Like just thinking about Stockdale paradox, really, I start to think about how the principles of good to great apply, or the flywheel and the doom loop, how to create momentum because of the flywheel. These little metaphors, these visual metaphors and these stories,
Mm.
as I discuss them with people, they become much more alive. And the reason why I initially kind of did these summaries of books was because for me that was a way to discuss those ideas, because I didn't really have many entrepreneur friends around me at the time. So I was like, okay, this is my way of just explaining and also putting the ideas forward. And as I explain, it helps me simplify and etch
Okay.
them in my brain.
So you read Good to Great by Jim Collins. You learned about the Stockdale paradox in that book.
Mm-hmm.
You then visually included it in your
My
mind
mind map.
map for
Yeah.
that book. So that
Right.
helped you cement it more. You then discussed the Stockdale paradox with whoever you knew at the time, your
Mm-hmm.
friends probably. what did you do to take action as that final? Do you remember anything from? I know
Sure.
probably.
Like Stockdale paradox is one which comes in many different forms, even in my like in my life on like in the gym and all those things. But I'll give you more of a business example for the flywheel. The flywheel, the concept of the flywheel is that most companies
We
they
should
fail to
probably
create.
just clarify what is the Stockdale paradox and how does the flywheel and what's the flywheel and why are they connected? Just quick, in brief
Sure.
summary. I know it's hard.
Sure. Or let's just talk about the flywheel. Maybe it's simpler for people to just visualize and get to. Flywheel, think of it like a 5,000 pound giant flywheel that's sitting somewhere, and you're trying to make it go faster and faster by pushing it. Most companies fail because what happens is that you're trying to make the flywheel go faster. So one day you push in one direction, the next day you push in another direction, the third day you try to speed it up by doing something else, and you're constantly changing course in order to go faster. You're acquiring a new business, or you're finding a new marketing system, or you're trying to innovate on a new product completely. Like you're just constantly going in different directions trying to make the business grow, trying to create momentum in your business. If the momentum on the flywheel is momentum in your business, going in different directions is basically going to keep you stuck. On the other hand, if you just stick with one basic thing that really works and works, that you know it's working okay and you're getting the results, and you keep pushing the flywheel, you keep doing that one thing again and again every single day, you keep pushing the flywheel, period of day, 2 days, a week, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 10 months, over a period of time, you will get the flywheel to rotate so fast while your competition is still struggling. They're just trying to keep the flywheel going in this direction and that direction. So the key to creating momentum in your business is to simplify and find that key one thing where you can build momentum using by just pushing the flywheel in one direction and not going very fancy.
Mm.
So the key to momentum in business is simplicity.
And then you applied that for the first time to really cement that idea from good to great. In what way? Do you remember the first time you?
So yeah, I applied it in many ways, but one of the big things that I keep going back to the idea because it's such a visual representation of what the truth of business is. Like last night, I was watching the show Profit, and I could see how the business that he was investing in, the girl was like, I have a popcorn business and now I'm going to start this funnel cakes and then I'm going to start this waffles and this and that. And the guy, Marcus Lemonis, who's the prophet, like who's the guy who,
The
worth
host.
hundreds of millions of dollars,
Mhm.
right? He's like, no. You have great popcorn. You got to make great popcorn and just keep doing that. Screw the funnel cake, screw the waffles, screw all of this. You're just wasting your time and energy and effort. You got to focus on the popcorn. And the girl wouldn't get it. She would fight it. She was like so against it. And it's so fun to see that little idea of a flywheel, it just manifests in so many areas of business and life. Like you see those examples all around you because the visual idea is now clearly etched in your head. She was trying to rotate the flywheel in all these different directions while all she needed to do was push in that direction of just keep a popcorn business going.
Okay, and
Just
it was
grow your popcorn
right.
business.
It's working. Do more of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do more of
Okay.
what's working and starve what's not working. And similarly, like I applied it in my business where like do more of book summaries, do more book summaries, do more book summaries, do more book summaries. Don't try to create 1,000 different things. Just keep creating more book summaries. And that's why, at some point I was like, okay, I need a team to do this. I need systems to do it. I need processes to do it. I need, all of these things. It didn't happen because I just decided to grow a business. It was because I was aware of that flywheel concept again and again
Mm-hmm.
as the business grew.
Okay. So comprehension then. So we've kind of tied a knot, I think, on that as well. Where I love those 4 steps. Really, like to really comprehend what you're learning. First, read it or listen to it in the book. Second, create some kind of notation of it. It sounds like you record, but this would be the perfect time to bring in mind mapping, right? Because that's
Well, the recording gets converted into a mind map
right.
in
But
our
if I
case.
was starting myself, I don't have team. I
Yeah.
would potentially do recordings, go back when I finish the book, take my recordings and map them out, and then I've done step 2 of comprehension, not just reading it or listening to it. I've actually documented it and visualized it. Step three, I then could take my mind map and the book to a friend, a fellow entrepreneur, or you're reading books about gardening, someone else who loves gardening, and say, hey, I learned this amazing new concept about caring for vegetables or something like that from this book. And I mapped it out, and that helps you cement it as well. And that kind of, then the final step would be to take it to your tomatoes and use that concept to help grow, tomatoes using that concept. So, and that really cements your comprehension of it. And I guess that's a nice way to kind of do both. We kind of completed the loop on both sides. So how to consume 30 books in a month, how to get the most out of those books when you do so, using those 4 steps. It sounds like that's kind of like the base framework of what you do. And now obviously with your business, you're helping people kind of speed up that process by giving them the summaries, giving them the maps with you creating the mind maps as well as the guide through the mind map, so that they can then, and actually this is a question I did have for you. Someone who's listening to this going, man, I really want to consume more books. I want Manny's information, your summaries. How do people use them though? Like if I go to you, I can watch one of your free ones on YouTube. Do I watch that first, then read the book? Like how do you recommend to get the most out of a book summary?
It's a combination. Like different people do different things, and both are realistically good. One is to just get exposed to new book ideas. Like people will go, maybe they'll buy my entrepreneurship book summary pack. There's like summaries of the 50 greatest books on entrepreneurship. It's like 10 hours of video content there, 20 minutes a book. It's, it's a lot of stuff there. So you could go maybe 15 hours. You can watch all the videos there. But as you watch the video, you're like, oh, this book's really interesting. This book speaks to me. So you watch the summary, but then you go back, you buy the book, maybe you read it, you listen to it, and then you still, now you're like, okay, well, this is what Manny was saying in the summary. I get it. I really see the point. But not everyone is dedicated to doing that. Not everyone's going to be at that level of like, okay, I like this book, I'm going to read it. Most people just want to take the book, the summary as we have, take some of the best the ideas that I've shared with them and run with them. And they're happy to just get those ideas and just try to apply them into their business or their life.
I see. So it's not just the map. It's almost like you're the tour guide at the beginning, or not even that. You're the travel agent going, where do you want to go? And what do you need to do? And you're like, oh, I want to get more customers for my business. Okay, here's the best books for that. Take the summaries, whichever summary speaks to you, go get the book. You're kind of like, it's very 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. It's kind of helping people to identify, rather than read 50 books, and not even necessarily read or listen to 50 summaries, have your main goal, find the 5 summaries that seem to suit the goal, pick the 1 book or the 2 books that you see as the best fit for solving that problem. So kind of really making you efficient and effective.
Yeah, exactly. It's both ways, whichever way you want to approach it.
Yeah, okay, I can see the advantage. So Manny, I think we've kind of really mapped out everything you do, or at least not everything, but the core essentials of consuming books quicker, comprehending them better, how mind maps and what you do fits into this picture. Anything else you feel like you need to throw in for this? Maybe I feel like we also maybe should kind of start at the beginning. Why do this again? Like, what is the point? Because I feel I don't want to do this just because I want to tell my friends, oh, I read a book a day, which is cool, but there has to be something else behind this, right?
Yeah. For me, it was never a fancy goal of reading a book a week or anything like that. It was more of, how can I learn and grow myself as quickly as as quickly as I can. That was the goal. It was always like, how can I learn and get the advantage in business and in life? That's really what it was, and it still is. Like, the learning and the growth is what fuels me, not necessarily a goal of 2,000 books or the goal of reading 7 books a week. It's great, but it's much beyond that. Like, I want to improve my life. I'm constantly trying to improve my life, and I feel like books are one of the densest mediums, media or mediums out there to be able to do that.
Have you done this beyond business? Like, what other topics have you?
Yeah, so we've covered productivity, goal setting and accomplishment, mental toughness, self-esteem, self-confidence, social skills, entrepreneurship, marketing. Now we have success mindset coming up, leadership, sales, whole bunch of different areas. And we
Okay.
just usually take like 40, 50 of the greatest books in that area and just summarize all of them. It's around 10, 15 hours of content on each of these topics.
Okay, maybe last question, Manny. Do you how
Sure.
do you read for fun anymore? It sounds like your reading is so directed, everything you're doing. Like, do you ever stop? It started with Fountainhead, you said at the beginning of this, which is fairly fictional, even though it does teach you some, aspirational goals with life, but it really is a fiction story. Do you still enjoy reading fiction? And
No, I don't fix. I really don't have time for fiction. Like if I'm going to read, I'm going to read nonfiction. But for me, reading business books is fun. It's still a lot of fun. Like I picked up. I always like. I'm so tempted. Every time I'm so tempted. I'm like, okay, I need to read this, and I need to read this, and I need to read this. I have to hold myself back, and I'll be like, okay, well, I only have so much time. I can't just read all of these books, but I'm always tempted. Like every time I come across a new podcast, someone's talking about this book, I'm like, oh, God damn it, I need to go read that or read that. So that the temptation, as long as it's there, I'm gonna enjoy this business. But I hope that temptation never goes away.
yeah, fair enough. Lover of knowledge, lover of improving
Yeah.
yourself. Manny, what websites can we find you at?
Sure. So if you're listening to podcasts, the best way to find me is 2000 Books Podcast, where we have literally over 200 episodes of just straight up knowledge from the world's greatest business and personal development books, ideas and summaries and interviews with authors, all sorts of things like that. Just look for 2000 Books on your favorite podcasting app. You'll find there. If you are more of a visual guy, if you're watching this, guy or girl, if you're watching this on YouTube, well, we have a YouTube channel called 2000 Books, 200 Books, same thing. We have over 60,000 subscribers there. So come say hi over there. There are tons of book summaries again over there. Mind map, visual summaries, if that's your thing. And our website, 2000books.com, 2000books.com. That's where you can go find most of our packages, which you can buy over there.
Awesome. Okay, a lot of resources, both free and paid, for those who want to dive deep. Keep up the reading, Manny. Great stuff.
Thank you. And let me see if this would help for all those who are listening right now on Candid. Just enter the coupon code Candid on any of our book summary products, and I'll give you a sweet discount. So
Awesome.
that's probably for the first 100 people who do that.
Make sure you
So
get the double A there.
CAANDID is the coupon code, and it should have a really good discount for you guys to grab some of our book summaries, which are ones you want.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Manny.
Thank you.